Welcome to Standard Intelligence, your resource for competitive constructed magic in the UK. This is episode 60 for the week beginning the 7th of January 2019. I'm Dr. Jack Patton.
And I'm Simeon Beaver. This episode is brought to you in part thanks to our supporters on our Patreon. Many thanks to those of you who have made a contribution. It is immensely appreciated by both of us. As we have hit our first Patreon goal, we are doing a giveaway each month of a standard playable card, and it is time for our January giveaway. So Jack, are you ready for a random number?
Yes, do you want to tell people what the card is first?
The card is Herdana's Climb. So we've chosen Herdana's Climb because it looks like the Simic Guild in the new set will be able to take advantage of this enchantment. It's one of the flip lands. Beginning of the combat on your turn, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. Then if that creature has 3 or more +1/+1 counters on it, transform Herdana's Climb into the Winged Temple of Araska, which allows you to either add 1 mana of any colour to your mana pool, or for 1 and Simic, or 1 green-blue, and tap it, target creature you control gains flying and gets +X/+X until end of turn, where X is its power. So hopefully there'll be a Simic deck with that in.
Yep, I think a lot of other people are thinking similarly to us.
Looking at the way the price went over since Simic was first spoiled, I think so too. It wasn't exactly a runaway difficult bet on this one.
No, absolutely.
we have sort of gone, this is a card that currently exists that looks like it's going to be good, really good.
Yeah.
Okay, so our random number is 8. Who comes up under random number 8?
Random number 8 is actually our first patron. It is Adam Vartanian.
Excellent.
Yes.
Congratulations, Adam. I hope you enjoy the card.
Yes. If he gets a chance to play it over the next few months.
Yes. Well, it has... It goes... It's one of those that's going to rotate out in September, isn't it?
Yeah, unfortunately.
Yes.
But yeah, hopefully, Adam, you get a certain amount of use out of it before it does rotate. So, yeah.
And perhaps we should take this opportunity to congratulate Adam on his article on CFB.
Yes, absolutely. For those of you who haven't read it, he spoke about the technical challenges of bringing older formats to Arena, just as a bucket of cold water over anyone who goes, this is really good, can't wait till they add Modern.
Yes, they're never going to add Modern.
I really don't think they are. But yes, head over to CFB and check out Adam's article if you want more details on that. As Simeon said, we are doing these giveaways every month, so anyone who is our supporter on Patreon by the 5th of February will be eligible for the February draw. If you'd like to be in it, or you'd like to learn more about how to support us, please head over to patreon.com/SIcast.
And with that, let's get right into the news for this week.
So in our news this week, our biggest news is probably actually that our Magic Fest schedule has been updated through June. That is, we now know the types of events that will be going on through to the end of June. We obviously had the locations and the dates already that had been announced towards the end of last year, but now we've had the second quarter's event types updated, which is generally a good thing. I like that. So over the course of the first half of this year, we have in Europe, we're obviously going to focus on Europe here, we have 5 Magic Fests. Not a large number, but we have 5. This weekend is obviously Magic Fest Prague, which is UMA limited. Good luck to anyone going, and I hope you have fun. Even if you're not playing the main event, if you're playing side events, please do enjoy it. And enjoy Prague. Prague is an absolutely fantastic city, so do enjoy Prague. Next up, we have Strasbourg next month, the 15th to 17th of February. Limited, presumably, that will be Ravnica Allegiance. We haven't had that fully confirmed yet, but I can't imagine why they would do it anything else. Then there's Bilbao on the 15th to the 17th of March. So a full month later, we get Modern in Bilbao, which I think has basically become tradition at this point.
Yeah.
And then also a tradition, London will be limited. Now, there's some interesting things going on with London. Yeah, I know you're sad. I'm a little sad. I would have liked to have played Standard, but we'll get into that in a moment. So London's interesting. London is the second Magic Fest which is being paired with a Mythic Championship, the first being Cleveland, I believe.
Yeah.
Which is happening in March, late February?
Late February, I want to say.
Yeah, I think the first Mythic Championship is going to be in late February. So London is the second one paired, and is also the last of the sort of old style Pro Tours where there are travel awards given to the players. Beyond London, everything will be under the new system. So that's, something to be on the lookout for, more information as we run up to London. London Magic Fest is actually going to be a 4-day event, and now weirdly, in comparison to 4-day events previously, we aren't going Thursday to Sunday. We're actually going Friday to Monday, with the Mythic Championship going from Friday to Sunday, much like a current Pro Tour, and I imagine it will be very similar to the current Pro Tour. But the Magic Fest is going to go from Friday to Monday, which is a little bit weird. The other odd thing about the Pro Tour is obviously we expect it to be in the next set, because obviously Pro Tours were, when these were laid out, designed to go with sets. And we still don't actually know what the name of that set is. It's still codenamed Milk, for those of you who didn't know the R&D codename for the set after Ravnica Allegiance. It is Milk. And it is still theoretically set on Ravnica, as far as we know. That hasn't changed.
Yeah, no, they have said that it's
I was
going
to say, I'm sure they've said that, and I haven't heard anything like, oh yeah, we changed that at the last minute. So it's still set on Ravnica, but it won't be Ravnica Allegiance.
It's the conclusion of the Bolas
arc, yes.
My feeling is it's going to be a very weird set. Possibly a weird draft environment set.
Why? Because we've got all 10 guilds in there.
Well, partly we have all 10 guilds in there. Partly we haven't been told about it yet. It suggests there is some climactic bit with Ravnica and Bolas that's going to
even
affect...
saying the name would give away.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Or it's actually, they don't know yet which bit of the set they're going to release, because it might be Bolas winning and it might be...
Oh, do you think we're going to get
losing? I don't know.
An in-world story transition where we could have Bolas win or Bolas lose?
Potentially.
Yeah, they've done that before, I believe. They've had was it not Tempest? It was one of the artifacts.
There was some. I think it was Phyrexia and Mirrodin, where people decided what happened in some small way, or at least it was made to look like people decided what happened.
Yeah. The cynic in me agrees with that statement, because designing 2 sets and only releasing 1 sounds insane.
More importantly, there are a huge number of limited Magic Fests around that date.
Yes.
So not all that same date, but there's 4, 5, 6 Magic Fests in a row that are all limited.
Which suggests that it might be 2 weeks or a week after the release of the set, which has often been the heaviest concentration.
I wouldn't be shocked for London to not be the release weekend of the set.
Even with the Mythic Championship
the Mythic Championship happening at the same time.
This is, that's actually interesting, because obviously if we look back at past sets that would have been released for that quarter, we do see that, so over the past 2 years, we've seen April 22nd as a release, and then the year before we've seen April 2nd, and then before that we've seen March 21st, and then back up to April 26th. So, everything is in the early-ish April to late-ish April release dates. So because we obviously don't actually have a release date for Milk yet, I think we can start to figure out that yes, once we get this glut of limited Magic Fests, the first big grouping of those is probably the release weekend, which is very interesting, actually. Nice bit of detective work there, Simeon.
Yeah, I just think there's something weird with the limited format, which is why there are so many limited events happening.
Well, absolutely. You say that, and we move on, and the next Magic Fest in Europe is Copenhagen from the 14th to the 16th of June, and that is also limited, which, there's not a standard Mythic Championship on this list, I don't believe, for quarter 2.
There are 2 standards within quarter 2.
Are there? Okay. Sorry,
Kansas City and Taipei, I
Oh,
think.
that's it. Yes.
But I think London, Madison, Kitakyushu and Providence are all limited, all in a row. And then there's Kansas City, Taipei, Washington, and then Copenhagen. I suspect Washington is also limited.
I believe it is. Let me just try.
So, yeah, that just says with that set there's something odd, limited-wise going on.
And you think they want to push it?
Or it's going to be so amazing. And because Mark Rosewater also put out a tweet saying that he was so excited for this coming year because there were 3 sets that he was really keen to show us all. And people responded, well, weren't you keen to show... why 3 and not 4? Is it Ravnica Allegiance that you're not keen on? It's like, well, we've done Ravnica Allegiance before. It's, yes, you'll love it, but it's nothing new.
Yeah.
That implies the other 3 sets are all something new. And yet the next set is still set on Ravnica. So it's got to be somehow new but set on Ravnica and not disappoint everyone who loves Ravnica.
I tell you what, I don't think I envy the designers on this set.
No. So yeah, that's my thinking for what's going on there.
All right, fair enough. That's pretty interesting.
I'd like a lot more of them to be standard.
Yes. Okay, so that's the other point, right? The fact that there's 2 in standard, 1 in Taipei and 1 in the US in Kansas City. It's a little disappointing, right? You know, we've come to this state where we have, and I think a lot of people would have agreed, certainly a month ago, maybe even still now, we are still currently in the best standard we've had in at least 2 years, and other people have said something along the lines of probably closer to 6 years.
Yeah.
And we're not getting premier events in it. Why? You know, standard is, for a lot of people, even what they play on Arena. I mean, obviously there's the whole best of 1, best of 3 thing, but it's standard. It's not, to a more or lesser extent, limited, because limited on Arena costs money, and the free way to play is like pseudo-standard / actual standard.
The things I've seen which looked at how many people were playing from, you can get the tools that track your progress and then aggregate everyone's things. It's about half and half is limited standard.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
From what I can tell.
Well, all right.
But even so.
Yeah, exactly. Even so, I mean,
I think what it tells you, the fact there are only 2 standard tournaments in that 3 months and 2 standard tournaments in the previous 3 months, is how far in advance these things are actually worked out. And that I know sometimes things get changed very last minute.
Yeah.
But most of the time it is set a long time in advance, and standard was doing appallingly. And so they were not setting up for standard Mythic Championships.
I totally agree. I totally agree that is entirely what's happened.
And so hopefully the second half of the year we see a lot more standard.
Yes. Hopefully those haven't been
destroyed
by the influence of Kaladesh, I feel, is probably the best way of putting it.
And perhaps destroyed by the influence of numbers at standard events, essentially.
I mean, well, there was a reason that those events weren't doing as well as they
even this season of standard, this great season of standard for PPTQs, has not seen the same numbers of people going as modern did.
No, you're absolutely right. You're definitely right.
So I can see why they'll run more modern ones, annoyingly. Anyway, let's move on from the Magic Fest schedule, because it wasn't meant to take that long. No,
exactly. So yeah, there's some interesting stuff going on there, but I think let's look a little bit closer to home. We've got some PPTQ results, and obviously Simeon played in a PPTQ this weekend just gone. So why don't we get into that?
Yeah. So obviously I was hoping to play in a standard PPTQ. Because that's what I like to do. And all the PPTQs I've ever played have been standard. So Dark Spheres was originally standard, and then we found out they changed it to limited.
Yep.
So I went, okay, that's fine. I will go and play in Coventry. And they cancelled theirs because they couldn't get a judge.
Yes.
We're not entirely sure why they couldn't get a judge, having spoken to some judges at the weekend. They went, yeah, there are people who are free. Seems weird. But beside the point, so there was no... I couldn't play on Sunday. I needed to play Saturday. There was no local PPTQ in standard. And it's the last weekend of PPTQs.
Yep.
So I wanted to play one. So yes, I went to play at Dark Sphere. I'll talk about that in a minute. Let's talk about the one we've got results for, Nerd Shack, which was standard.
Yeah, I do want to before we go on. So obviously we advertised an absolute slew of PPTQs this weekend.
We did.
And of those, I heard back from 4 of them that they had been cancelled or had rescheduled to previous weeks, and I just hadn't noticed. So, you know, as you say, Escape Games had cancelled because they couldn't get hold of a judge. Ace Gaming had cancelled. Comics, Games and Coffee had cancelled due to venue issues, and Basbo Comics had rescheduled until for earlier in the season, possibly having looked at the sheer number of PPTQs that weekend and gone, why on earth are we all clumped up here?
Yeah.
Let's move it earlier. So yeah, the fact that we announced, what was it, like 12 or something?
Something like that.
And already 5 of them have gone. One's changed format, and then 4 have cancelled or rescheduled. Yeah, that was a little unfortunate.
And somewhat disappointing.
And somewhat disappointing for us folks who wanted
and obviously,
to play
at any point where we heard something was cancelled, we did get a message out on our Facebook page, so that hopefully anyone who had taken our advice to go somewhere was able to not travel without finding an event at the venue they were going to.
Yep.
Exactly. Always recommend contacting the venue either through Facebook or by directly contacting them, just in case something has happened.
Yep. So anyway, yeah, tell us about the Nerd Shack at Wigan's PPTQ results. Thank you very much to Nerd Shack for sending us those.
Yes, thank you. Unfortunately, they only had 19 players as well, which is, I'm surprised it was that low considering. But maybe more of the events in the Northwest were firing. Yeah, that's quite possible. But yeah, so 19 players. The winner was not surprising deck though. It was Golgari Midrange.
You mean that deck that we've been saying you should probably be playing if you can play it?
That deck we've been saying you should probably be playing. Yeah. Yes. The surprising thing I find from the deck list itself, it was a Wild Growth Walker deck. It was running a Vraska Golgari Queen instead of any other Planeswalkers, and I don't think that's correct. Oh no, sorry, there are 3 Vivian Reeds.
Yeah. That's
better. But also, yeah, the one Vraska, I probably would have taken that out for an extra finality, but
it's tech for the mirror. Finality is basically only good if you can get a Carnage Tyrant and stick a bunch of counters on it and wipe away the rest of your opponent's board, and your Carnage Tyrant is bigger than your opponent's and they don't have the ability to edict it. There's a lot of, if statements going on there. If they don't have an edict. If you can find Carnage Tyrant and then finality. If. Whereas a Planeswalker on 3 or 4 to accrue value early is very good, and obviously you can ramp them out on turn 3 if you hit Llanowar Elves on turn 1 or 2, so they're good. My point is that I wouldn't be playing Golgari Queen because she forces you to sacrifice things to gain that value. I'd be playing Karn.
I'd be going, if I have to play a 4-mana Planeswalker, I would play Karn as well.
Yep, exactly.
Runner-up deck, far more interesting.
Yes.
Runner-up deck of Naya Dinos.
Nyasaurs. Brilliant. Great to see that there's still innovation going on in this format. And I've actually fought against Nyasaurs a few times on Arena. And I think now that we're picking up, a few more lands for it, and it can actually pivot to being more heavily in green than at the moment where a lot of its focus has to be on the white side of things. Because that's where...
Yeah, but this isn't focused on white. This is focused on green.
Yeah, exactly. Because that's where it wants to be. So any deck that focuses where it wants to has trouble with its mana, whereas the decks that focus where their mana sort of lets them go, well, this is going to feel rough, isn't it? Yeah, just picking up the shock lands for Gruul this set is going to be...
It will help
brilliant.
Enormously, yeah.
So I can see this deck doing very well this season, actually.
I probably
early foreshadowing.
Should have got my Steel Leaf Champions, but I haven't. I have most of the rest of the package. Although the Sarkhan's Unsealings, which I could have called the deck Naya Unsealing as well, but I thought I'd go with the Dinosaur package.
Okay.
Semi-finalists were 2 Jeskai control decks, one of which looks like I expect a Jeskai control deck to look like at the moment, with a couple of Niv Mizzets, some 4 Teferis, Deafening Clarion, etc. And the other one does not, but I can't call it anything except Jeskai control. The other one has 4 Crackling Drakes and 4 Siren Storm Tamers. Jack has gone silent.
Siren Storm Tamer.
The card you'd normally see in mono blue, the 1 mana.
The
counters
1
for
mana, sack it and pay a blue, counter ability or spell that targets you or a permanent you control.
Yes.
Okay, interesting. So like a cross between mono blue and
some Drakes.
Drakes and hold on, I want to find this list now. Let me find this list.
I shall.
You've got me interested now. Also, I just wanted to check you're working on Niosaurs and check that you weren't saying that it was a dinosaur deck again when it had like 2 dinosaurs in it. Yeah, okay. First Jeskai control, totally agree with. Second Jeskai control, ooh, now that's interesting. Yeah, like you say, 4 Crackling Drake and 4 Siren Storm Tamer, interesting. 3 Response Resurgence, also kind of interesting. And then the only like late game engines are Rao and Dawn of Hope.
And Azor's Gateway.
Oh, and there's an Azor's Gateway there. You are correct. Yes. And then you've got like Citywide Bust. And Invoke the Divine in the main board.
Yep.
Okay, this is a really odd build. I'm trying to figure out what this build is trying to do.
I'll be honest and say it looks like a if this was a Golgari deck, we'd have said it was a Golgari Tradebinder deck.
Yeah.
It looks like a Jeskai Tradebinder deck, if I'm honest.
Yeah, same. Especially, like, the sideboard has Inescapable Blaze when you will... I'm pretty sure we'd all just sort of go, yeah, that should definitely just be another Banefire.
Yeah, just be more Banefires.
So, interesting. Very interesting. Like, a lot of it I do definitely get. Like, the Firemind's research in the sideboard, I'm like, yeah, you don't see it very often, but it can definitely be a thing. Invoke the Divine, 2 more in the sideboard. What has this person been forced to play against where they hate artifacts and enchantments so dearly?
Search Vescanter and Experimental Frenzy.
I mean, you aren't wrong, but at the same time, like, I don't think having hate in your main board for something as relatively narrow as that
and Treasure Map
the way to.
No, I know. I agree.
I agree.
Like,
I don't know. There's
in best of ones, they're in your main board because you only have a main board.
Yeah,
and that's possibly also what this is a sign of, is someone who has been playing best of ones on Arena.
Yeah, I mean, you could very well be right there.
In the quarterfinals, we had a mono red Frenzy deck, completely standard, pretty much, although down to 1 Wizard's Lightning.
Totally agree with that.
Agreed.
I absolutely agree with that. I would honestly run more Lightning Strikes than Wizard's Lightning if I could. Like, that's just the Wizard's Lightning is, when it's bad, it's way too bad. And what's gone in its place looks to be Lava Coil, which I actually really like at the moment.
Yeah, agreed. We have Jessup Is It Drake deck, which is basically the Jessup spell with the 4 Raptor Hatchlings in the sideboard.
Okay, yeah.
And then we have a Boros mid-range deck, which is Boros Angels, I guess, actually.
Yeah. Like,
it's got Aurelio and Spellent Angel and Lyra. Yeah, it's going to be Boros Angels.
That looks a lot like Brad Nelson's build, actually.
And then the fourth one is a Grixis control with Disinformation Campaign, Thought Erasure. You thought you had those cards to play that were in your hand. I'm sorry, you don't have them anymore. Yeah, I've been hating playing against Thought Erasure recently. This looks like a pretty basic Grixis control list. This just looks like the way Grixis control should be built at the moment. So if you're looking to try and play a Grixis control list, here is an excellent starting point for you. Yeah, agreed. This is exactly what I would be doing with the deck if I was going to be playing it this weekend. 3 Ritual Suits, 2 Golden Demises. Definitely where you want to be with that. Fairly standard. We had the Golgari in there. In it one. We had the Mono Red in there. We've got lots of the Jeskai control area and some Izzet Drakes. Yep. The slightly off the wall is obviously the Boros mid-range, the Grixis and the Grixis control, both of which we have definitely seen do well before. They just haven't seen do well towards the end of the season, so that's perfectly understandable. And then the Niosaurs, which is just great to see them doing well already, even without the power they're about to pick up. So that's good. And though of course, off the wall build. We do have to sort of bear in mind that there were only 19 players, and it would have been a smaller round tournament. Yeah, but still. I'd have loved to have seen a 45-player tournament at this point of the season and seen what did well there. Seen what happened, yeah. I really would. I was at a tournament with more players than that. We had 51 players at Darksphere.
Wow. Okay. For sealed. At
for
the
sealed.
end of the season.
At the end of the season. Yes. So you certainly can't fault them for deciding to go with that.
Nope.
When they get 51 players. I opened a reasonably nice pool, considering I'd listened to the Limited Resources episode on the way down to the event, and they talked about play blue. I said open Niv Mizzet, and
don't tell me you opened Niv Mizzet.
And play more than two colours, basically.
Yeah.
I didn't open Niv Mizzet, but I did open Ral. So I got close.
He's pretty good. He's pretty good, actually.
He's pretty good, along with a deafening clarion, and lots of good uncommons in blue. So I was. Were
you just playing Jeskai Control in Sealed?
I was playing 4-colour Control in Sealed.
Oh, you monster!
I double splashed deafening clarion,
and you were also therefore splashing Ral already.
Yeah.
Let me guess. You were blue green, weren't you?
I was blue black.
Oh, okay.
I played every colour except green. It's weird. This is not me.
No, but I've actually heard a lot of people say green in this limited format is not great.
No, that was indeed what Limited Resources said, and where I went with. I opened a Nullhide Ferox. It never went anywhere near my deck.
Yeah.
Especially because I was only playing 10 creatures. What is going on with my life?
I was going to say, Simeon, are you feeling okay, mate?
I was clearly not feeling okay playing a 10 creature deck. I don't do these things. Very fun event. I won, and then I lost, and then I won, and then I lost, and then I won, and then I lost. So
dang,
a completely average 3-3. I think some play mistakes from me. A couple of cards that shouldn't have been in my deck that I played that came out every single round. But generally happy with it. I would just have loved it to have been a standard event. And being able to take my tokens that I've been playing best of 3 with on Arena and try to crush some people with lots of tiny things getting finalitied. Not finalitied. No, they must not be finalitied. Getting flourished.
Flourished, yes. Well, you've been doing rather well with drawing March of the Multitude into Flourish recently, so...
Yeah, I wanted to do that for proper.
Yeah. So yeah, no, congratulations on a relatively solid finish, and also, like, you're not a sealed expert, so going 3-3
at a PPTQ level, I was happy
at the PPTQ level, that. Exactly. No, I think that's not terrible. Right, so there is one other PPTQ that I'd like to have a quick discussion about, and that is Travelling Man and prize payouts, which is not something we actually normally talk about on the show, because normally we would expect them to be pretty basic, you know. What's your feeling on an average prize structure, Simeon? I tend to go with something along the lines of, for every £5 it costs me, a booster's probably going into the prize pool.
As a minimum, yes. Yeah. I do often expect that prize pool to be top heavy. I mean, I've
absolutely.
Had events where I've come 9th up by a very, very small amount, and I've got nothing because the prizes all went to top 8, and that's fine.
Yeah.
I've had events where the prizes are completely based on the Swiss, which is also fine. It helps discourage IDs, although actually, if you're there as a grinder, you're really only there for
the invite.
The invite, and therefore it's far more important to guarantee you make the top 8 than to try and get a slightly bigger prize.
Yeah.
You know, what difference does even 12 packs make? Not a great amount.
But for grinders, it does mean that if someone is there just for the prizes, if they're, you know, a local player who isn't interested in going to the RPTQ, someone who can't make it to the RPTQ, this was actually something we've had come up where 4 of the top 8 dropped because they realised that the RPTQ was the same weekend as GP Lille and they would much rather go to GP Lille, and they took their prizes because it was all based on Swiss as opposed to fighting until the finals, at which point you had a 50% chance of a finalist of both, you know, the winner going, oh, well, I can't go, and then possibly a relatively high chance of the other finalists going, yeah, well, you can't concede to me because I don't want to go either, which would be...
Let's play to lose so the loser gets all the packs.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, those sorts of things we're, like, relatively happy with. What I'm not really super happy with is when a shop charges £18 for entry, which I feel is already slightly over, but not much over.
Is quite high.
Yeah. Slightly over the entry fee, maybe, generally, but and then effectively working down to 1 pack per player in the prize pool.
So it's £18 per pack.
Yeah, which is pretty rough.
Any other prize?
Some random promos that the store still had from older events, like Ixalan treasure packs and things like that, which, don't get me wrong, some of them can be really nice, but that's not the point.
So if you had standard showdown boosters, I'd accept them replacing a standard booster.
Yes, but...
A current standard showdown.
Yeah.
So not standard showdown packs from sets that have rotated. That would be acceptable replacement for a standard booster, I think.
I think you've got as much of a chance of opening something.
I mean, you look at when the promos are given out in the GP where you do the sealed event.
Yeah, foiled again.
The foiled again thing. And yeah, they're never worth it. And those promos are never, ever worth anything. Because if they were worth something, if they were Fatal Push, they all got picked up at the time.
Exactly. Things like that. And apparently something like playmats occasionally, which obviously can hold some value, but
I
not
have
a massive amount.
I have playmats more than I can play as it is.
Yeah, exactly. I actually went round a friend's house and they were using them as table coverings for eating on because they had so many of them. They were like, "Oh, this meal's going to be messy. Let's get out the playmats," which I thought was brilliant. So, what we're saying here is that there was a fairly low return to the rest of the players, and we actually spoke to someone who was at this event and came in, and again, the prizes were based on Swiss, and they came in second in the Swiss and walked away with 3 boosters and a treasure chest, an Ixalan treasure pack.
For
and it's
second. For prizes based on Swiss and you came second.
Yeah. So we haven't actually heard anything from Travelling Man about this, and now I don't want to be like, get the pitchforks out because this is insane, this is terrible. This is not like stores going, it's £50, there's no prize pool, I don't want anyone to come because I want my mates to win.
No, that's
this is not what this is. This is just a store not necessarily having a staff on who doesn't necessarily understand what the average is, and they've been, a little bit lax in understanding what it is they're supposed to be giving out.
Do you think it could also be that these aren't happening anymore? This is the last one. It doesn't really matter.
It doesn't matter if we get bad PR from this because no one's ever going to come here all the way to play another event again. Possibly, but I don't think so. I don't think a store would think like that, because I think if you end up having a decent interaction at a store, you're more likely to go back if they host another event, even if it's not one that leads to the Mythic Championships, as they will now be called. I think if I was in the area to go to a winner box in, say, Preston, which we'll talk about later, they're running a lot of big events at the moment, or if I was around and there was an Axiom event on in a format that I enjoyed, I'm definitely going because I know how good those sorts of events are.
Yeah, but you're not...
But if you're not planning on playing anymore...
You're going to those 2 events because they're good prizes. So let's go with, they give what we were talking about, 1 pack for every £5 in the players put in. So coming second gets you 8 packs.
Yeah.
You're not actually then going to go, I'm going to come back here because the prizes are so good.
Yeah, you're just sort of going, well, that's...
You're just going, yeah, that's
average.
accepted. That's normal.
Yeah.
So I can sort of see if they've gone, well, we're not going to give away like a box. And we've got this extra stock. Let's just get rid of it in this event because we don't care about this event anymore. It's in no way am I defending the store for doing it, but I can see where it could come from.
Yeah, but again, this is speculation. We do not know why they decided to go with this prize payout structure. But I mean, if we get any more information, obviously we'll follow up on this. But it's a little bit, I don't know, crummy for the last PPTQs of the season.
It's where you'd go, you wish Wizards set a prize structure. But actually, you don't, because Wizards always set a really awful prize structure.
They really do.
Which is a structure that's much worse than the best places pay out.
So, yeah, I don't know. Just one of those things to keep in mind. If you are planning on heading to events, do keep an eye on what the stores have done in the past as, prize payouts and that sort of thing.
It's also, to be fair, something we will, in the coming season when we don't really know what we're doing yet, when we are talking about events, we will be talking about what their prices are. If there's not some sort of set structure of us qualifying, if it's really we're going to tell you about winner boxes, it will be the prize support will be one of the things we will look at.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think with that, we can head into our deep dive for the week. So this week's deep dive, we're going to do a bit of an evergreen topic, and this is how to prepare for a new season. Now, we obviously don't have a list of events to talk about at the moment that are coming up, but we can give you some general pointers in how we go about preparing for a new season, especially those first couple of weeks when it's a bit of a mad scramble. You don't really know what it is you want to be playing. There's no set archetypes even in a lot of cases, and those archetypes that are set are so flexible that you don't know what cards you should be putting in your deck, even if you know what sort of deck you want to be playing. And then obviously we certainly don't know how the deck tier system lines up. You know, there's no consensus on, oh, this deck definitely beats this deck, etc., etc. So how do we go about preparing to jump into that sort of a season? And I think me and you, Simeon, we've come up with some ideas of how you sort of keep your head above water, at least until some established deck builders have come out and gone, this is what you want to be doing. And even if they're wrong, they at least give you some direction. So, yes. So I think the first thing is something that most of us all just kind of do anyway, and that's keep up with the spoilers. You know, it's we do it because it's interesting, because we're Magic players and we love information about new cards. That is definitely something that we mostly have in common, I think. But also just keep on top of every day, check what cards have come out and see if there's anything new. I mean, so obviously we had a fairly dry period over the Christmas segment, but as soon as we came back, you know, on the 2nd, we had a few cards, including 2 Planeswalkers spoiled, and you're like, oh, okay, we're back into it now. Like, it's go time. We've got serious spells that are going to be important here. We've got 2 3-mana Planeswalkers, you know, some really massive effects that we have to know about. So it's just keeping up with them and keeping on top of what sort of things are coming out. And I think that's, you know, a fairly useful thing to do.
I think you look at it in more in depth than I do.
Okay.
Because actually the spoilers as they come out actually tend to do my head in a bit. And that I can't go, oh, this goes here and this goes here, and da. But I do make sure I read all of the cards that come out.
Mm-hmm.
So I haven't necessarily thought about them in depth as to, oh, what could this do? Is this good? Is this bad? But I've made sure I've read every card. So when people when you start reading then articles or see things on Twitter where people mention a card, you go, oh yeah, okay. So people are being hot on that.
Yep.
Or to take the new Dovin Barn, some people are being very hot on it. Some people are being very cold on it.
Yes.
I don't have to decide which of those camps I'm in, but I have an idea of what they're talking about because I've looked at the cards and I've looked at the spoiler. And things like the mechanics are not going to be a shock to me come week 1 of Standard.
Yeah, that's absolutely important. The fact that you lock down your knowledge of the new mechanics and how you think they might interact with older mechanics is obviously pretty critical. So that's I think a really good starting point. If you do nothing but that, just at least read the spoilers. If you're really pressed for time, just read the spoilers of the rares and mythics. But I would suggest reading the entire set, because obviously there are, you know, removal spells printed at lower rarities, etc., that are always worth knowing about.
And counter spells and various things that
exactly. Counter spells are very rarely set at rare, so it's good to know what those sort of things can be. 3/2 flash with counter spell attached to it, uncommon. Seems like you should know that exists.
3/2 flash with counter spell, yes, definitely.
Might be giving away a small amount of hint as to some cards that I think are very good. So you also mentioned, you know, people being hot on cards, cold on cards. Where are you getting that from, Simon?
So I partly get it from Twitter, and I partly get it from reading articles. I don't have as much time to read articles as I used to, and definitely from podcasts. So I will listen to things like MTG Goldfish, who go through it all. I'd also strongly recommend watching people like Wedge when they do their daily summary of all of the cards that have come out. That's an excellent way of going, okay, I don't really know how this fits in. Wedge does.
Yep.
He will see all the possibilities for it, and he might mention something that then kicks off a deck idea in my head.
Yes. No, you're right, actually. Going to the Mana Source and watching his daily video updates is actually a really good point. I had failed to add that to the keeping up with the spoiler section.
I had forgotten until I just mentioned it there.
Yeah. But yeah, his videos are often here's where this card fits in. Here's where it's really good. Like, just have an understanding in the back of your mind of this is where it's really good. And he'll obviously also reach back to older formats and Commander and things like that. But he will still mention when a card is good in Standards. So, good to keep an eye on what he's saying there. Rather good Magic player is Wedge. I recommend the next one. Simeon, you're not a big fan of this one, I know, but I think you should sit down and try to design decks. Once the whole thing is spoiled, sit down and have a go at designing decks. Specifically, you look back at the older sets that are still in Standard and you go, what sort of powerful effect that doesn't quite fit in at the moment could I now make work with this new set? And that's that's something that I think is very useful to not only help you understand what you might want to play, as you look at decks and you go, well, this actually seems like a really interesting archetype to play. I would like to play this, or it seems really powerful. I would like to win with this. But I think you also get to see what other people might be thinking. If you go through and you try and build as many decks as you possibly can, a lot of other people will have found what they want to do and just stuck there. And the chances are, if you've gone through, say 50 decks or something, you will have found most of what they could possibly do. It's Standard. It's a limited card pool. You'll have found things mostly, I think.
I mean, okay, I don't want to go and do it for 50 decks myself. Mm-hmm. But at rotation last season, I put together a Knights and Angels build that was fairly close to what the Boros Angels deck turned into. Or became. I'd seen that power. And I also put together a tokens thing. And it was tokens. I went, okay, I tried that at the beginning and I went, this venerated Loxodon dude, he is really good. And that was one of the first messages you sent me last season. It was, buy Loxodons, they're really good. And okay, they didn't do the jumping up to $7, $8 type thing that I thought they might do. But I stayed on that deck for the whole season. With tweaks and changes and various other things. But I've been on that pretty style of deck because I had put it together before I had any cards. And then on Magic Online, as I was then, put it together, went 5-0 in a league and went, wow.
Yeah.
Which I wouldn't have done if I hadn't been trying to design at least some decks. And yes. This season, I know I'm going to try and put together what I think a Simic deck might look like. I'm going to try and put together a Monsters deck and some sort of Ramp deck, probably. And just go, will these work? Maybe. Well, at least I know what cards I might want to buy in if they're looking cheap and I think they could do well.
Yes. This also starts to insulate you against future sets coming out, right? If you put a deck together and you sort of go, this looks like it's pretty good, and then it turns out to not be so great, but you're like, yeah, but there's definitely something here. And if I see those cards for cheap, I might just pick them up. Because, spend $4 on a playset now and they suddenly spike to $5 a piece. You've just saved yourself $16. Whereas if they don't, even if you never play them, you're only out $4.
Yeah.
So it's not the worst in the world.
I wouldn't buy something now that's at 15.
Yes, exactly.
Even if I'm pretty certain it's going
to see play.
I
want to be 100% certain that a $15 card is going to see play.
I don't want to just know it sees play. I would know that I want to play it.
Yes.
Which is another thing entirely. Teferi can be $50, $60. I still don't want to play it.
No. Well,
Teferi could have been. I could have bought Teferis at $5. I wouldn't have done. Don't want to play that card.
No.
But something that you're going, that's a possibility, and it's at $1 or $2, you can't lose much.
Yeah, and obviously we all understand that Magic is a relatively expensive game, so you are invariably going to lose out on whatever you do. But I feel, the number of times our friend Ethan has came up to us during the Hangerback Walker era and went, they're insane, and I bought them for $1.
Yes, yeah. Yeah.
He would just walk up to us at tournaments and randomly go, $1! And then go back to crushing people with millions of Thopter tokens. That sort of feeling is insanely good.
Yeah.
The feeling of going, well, I knew I could have bought these at $1 a piece, and now I'm going to be paying $20. That's a feel bad. Whereas if you just go, oh, well, they sat in a box for a year, and then I decided to sell them to a vendor, and I lost out on $3, which is most of what happens to a lot of my rares. It's, I got them. Maybe I bought them, maybe I traded for them, maybe I opened them, and then I sold them to a vendor. They did basically nothing in my set, in my collection.
Yeah.
You know?
What happens to my rares is they sit in my binder until they're not worth anything anymore, and then
and then you hand
no
them
one
to
wants
me
them.
to sell at a GP.
No. Well, except I look at all of the old cars I have sitting around that weren't ever sold at a GP.
Yeah, you're gonna have trouble moving them now. Yeah, I mean that's we mentioned that in our rotation episode. Please just sell your cards that you're not using early. Like, don't just hold on to them.
Yeah, it's working out. It's still hard to hit.
I know it's still hard to hit the
Actually,
the nice
I
spot.
still have another set to come out, and I might want to play these.
Yeah,
it's hard.
Yeah. I mean, I was actually really worried that I had sold my Hadana's Climbs, because obviously the Hadana's Climb deck came out. It did really quite well a couple of seasons ago. Didn't quite make it to the top tiers, but was
yeah. We saw a few results from it. Yeah,
and I was like, that might be a deck that I want to play next season. I think I'm going to pick up these Hadana's Climbs. I actually picked them up at the RPTQ and bought them, wandered away with them, and then went and never played them for 6 months. And I was really worried that I'd gone and sold them in Brussels, because why would I keep them? They're rares that I'm not playing. As it turns out, fortunately, I had kept them, because apparently Past Jack's a genius and knows exactly what he wants to play in 2 sets.
Past Jack hopefully goes. Simic will be in the set at some point.
Yeah. I mean, this is it. If I'd been really thinking about it, like, sometimes you can make those sorts of guesses. And I mean, obviously, we're segueing into finance here. Sometimes you can make those guesses. You go, here is a card in blue-green. Simic is coming up in a Ravnica set. We'll keep the powerful blue-green cards. But I don't always make those connections, and I think a lot of other people don't either. So, yeah. Okay, the next one is a little bit, it's not as useful. We're getting now down into this is only sort of useful territory. Like, I really feel that keeping up with the spoilers is the best thing. Reading articles on what other people think is it's not quite as value for time high, but the amount of knowledge you're going to get out of it is larger than just looking at the set yourself. Obviously, you've got other minds powering your information. Giving deck design a go is an interesting experiment, but as long as you're willing to wait 2 weeks, doesn't actually matter. You're not losing or gaining too much by trying to build decks yourself. You are gaining an understanding of what other people might be doing, even later on into the format, which is, I think, very powerful. The next thing is watching the pre-release from Learning Ready Run and pre-release streams in general.
Yep.
So just see what sort of effects cards have when they are combined. And you might see something that you sort of go, that looked surprisingly powerful. Are there better versions of these cards in the rest of standard? You look at something that goes, I make 2 1/1s with lifelink for 3, and you go, well, paired with this, that looks really good. Maybe there's something better, and you go, there's Call to the Feast, which actually for 1 mana more makes another 1/1 with lifelink. That might be way better, but you can't play it in this limited format because it doesn't exist in this limited format. That kind of thing. So it's good to have a handle on what sort of interactions might occur there.
Yeah, it's also worth, I think, seeing cards as they're actually in play, because a card that does well in limited, that is really powerful in limited, can often be, actually, this might work in standard as well.
Yes.
The one that I think about, but which hasn't actually made a splash in standard yet, and I really think it should at some point, is the 1/3 that taps
Dryad
to look at
Green
the top
Seeker.
card. Yes.
I was right there with you, because you'd already mentioned it. You mentioned it in our top 10 of M19
because of
you
when I played it.
Exactly, you went to a pre-release. So this is our last point, and this is I think this is the least. No, this isn't the least useful for standard, but this is the one of the least useful things for standard. Just go to a pre-release, go and play and see what the cards do. But as you say, you went and you came back and you went, Jack, Dryad Green Seeker's really good. I'm going to put it in my top 10, and I know you're going to argue with me, but I think it's a really good advantage engine. And I'm like, okay, I really don't see where you're coming from here, Simeon, but it's your top 10. And then there have been decks over the course of the last 2 seasons that have tried to play it.
This pops up occasionally. Now, I think the fact that Llanowar Elves then came out,
yes,
kind of wrecked its chances a little bit.
Yeah.
But it was the sort of card which
No, Llanowar Elves were already out.
Oh, they were already out. Okay. Well, still, Llanowar Elves wrecks its chances a little bit.
Well, yeah.
it's just seeing a card as it's working on the battlefield, you can go, that is much more effective than it looks on paper.
Yes.
The other way around, something that looks like it's really, really powerful actually is a pile of pants.
I mean, you aren't wrong. Like, we've definitely had those cards where you look at it and you go, oh my god, this is going to be standard defining, and then just never see
Zakama.
Yeah.
And I know Zakama is stupidly expensive, and there wasn't things around to build around it.
But there were still ramp spells. Like, we have had ramp spells for a large amount of time.
There haven't been enough at enough different mana costs.
Mm-hmm. Yes, but even now we've got 1 mana ramp in Lanarels. We've got 2 mana ramp in
various
any number of spells. You've got the Dino ramp creature. You've got the 1/3, the Druid of the Cow. You've also got Thunderherd Migration if you wanted to do it in spell form. And then at 3, you've got the enchantment that enchants your land.
Gift of Paradise.
Gift of Paradise, that's the one.
Jack, I'm well aware of these things that I have that I can ramp with.
And then you've got Circuitous Route at 4 if you wanted to do that. So, but the point I'm trying to make is, you're right, that card looks insane, and we've got all of these ramp pieces. The last time we had, here's a card that's brilliant when you ramp into it, and here's all this really good ramp, with the Eldrazi, like 2-ish years ago now, and they saw a ton of play.
They did
in various forms, and
it's
this
also,
time we're just seeing nothing.
I think perhaps Eldrazi is a good thing to think about here, in that people weren't really sure how waste mana would work with playing the Eldrazi, and was it going to be worthwhile? And then you did it in limited, and then you went, yes, this is going to work in standard.
Is Thought Not Seer going to be too hard to cast to be worth it? No, it isn't. Play Thought Not Seer. It's stupidly good. Is Reality Smasher going to be really hard to cast? No! Play it! I totally agree.
These things don't directly give you a standard deck.
No, of course not.
But they do give you a good understanding of this set, and then you can then figure out how it fits into standard. And I think it allows you to get a handle on the week 1 standard decks quicker because you've seen the cards in play.
That's my opinion as well. This gives you these things that we've just described here. So the as I say, in descending order of, I think, your value per time unit invested, keeping up with the spoilers, reading articles and watching videos when those cards are spoiled, having a go at deck design, watching people play with the cards in a limited environment, and if it's possible in a standard environment, obviously, and then playing with the cards in a limited environment as well. If you do all of these things, I feel like you're going to have a really good idea of what's going to be going on in week 1 and 2 of standard. And now, as I say, you can obviously just opt out of week 1 and 2 of standard. I have absolutely done that in sets past, where I just went, I haven't had enough time to keep up with what's going on. I am in no way qualified to say I think I know what's going to happen in the first 2 weeks. I'm going to ignore it because someone's going to tell me eventually. And inside of 3 weeks, you're going to know what decks.
Well, to be fair, that was a lot easier when there was an SCG and then a Pro Tour.
Yes, exactly. When release weekend was, here's an SCG in standard and then here's a Pro Tour also standard, that was really easy to do. Now it's obviously
it's harder. It is harder, which is, hopefully we'll have some things to say at the beginning of February.
Yes.
At that time when those will be coming out. We can look at decks that have 5-0'd and Magic Online and various things like that.
So that was actually the next thing I was going to say. So once you're a little bit deeper into the season, obviously now you've got to start looking for where you're getting your information from in general. And that's, I think we'll do a full episode on where we get our deck information from at some point, or at least one of these like shortish deep dives. Because I think there's a lot of unmined locations that people just don't know really exist. So I think that's
something to look at another time.
Something to look at another time. What
we haven't talked about is building proxy decks and playing them off against
and testing.
Each other.
Yes.
It's something I do not do.
It's not something that I do as much as I should. The other option, I mean, part of that is because obviously for the last few months, I've obviously lived a little bit further away from my testing buddies than I would like. There are obviously programs to get around that. X-Mage is probably the best known of them. There was, I don't know how if this still works, but there was for a long time the ability to play MTGO in its next releases beta, and you had access to all of the cards, but the events were all, this is never going to link to anything, so you're never going to get any advantage out of this from having the set. But what I know a lot of people used to do was use a draft simulator to draft an 8-pod draft, and then just go and build the decks on the MTGO beta client where they had access to them. You could do the exact same through Xmage because they obviously put them up very quickly over there.
Yeah, I don't know. I've never tried building and playing decks in the weeks before a standard format starts.
I've had a go.
Writing
it's
articles
not
are doing
easy.
all the time.
Yes, I mean the sort of when do you do it question is always a bit weird because we still haven't actually had all of our spoilers. By the way, we're recording on Monday night. For those of you who don't know, we're obviously a little bit earlier in the week. Being as the pre-release is on Friday, I imagine the entire set is going to be spoiled by Friday at the latest.
Yeah,
probably
the entire
closer
set
to Thursday.
will be out on Friday.
Yeah,
it usually comes out Friday morning and then Friday afternoon. The pre-release ones.
Which happens, yeah, exactly. So the question sort of becomes, okay, so I wanna test and I wanna build decks, but how much of the set am I waiting for? Because at the start of it, you've got 4 cards, and it's like, ooh, we know the mechanics, but we've got them on rando cards that don't necessarily show us what's going on. And then towards the end, you're like, well, we're almost there anyway. I've only got another week before I get the cards in my hands.
You can, at this sort of point, go, we've had most of the rares.
Yeah. Again, we're recording on Monday. I would start building now and play testing now because we've had the rares, and those are often the key pieces.
And oddly, the key piece is the lands, but we knew what they were going to be already.
We knew what they were going to be. This season being slightly different, we knew what the lands were going to be as soon as, We considered that we knew what the lands were going to be literally a year ago when they told us we were going back to Ravnica, but we had it confirmed when we had the first 5 shock lands in the last set. Yeah. So we've known for a good long time what those lands were going to be. That isn't often the case, when you start talking about Shadows of Innistrad testing. It's like, well, they weren't spoiled early, they weren't spoiled late, they were spoiled somewhere in the middle, I believe, if I'm remembering correctly, and everyone just sort of went, sorry, what? Yeah. I don't understand. And it was a very interesting time to try and test. This set, obviously, we just go, well, you can just start by taking your Abzan Dinos deck or your Naya Dinos deck and just going, I'm just going to make the mana base way better. Just fix my lands.
Does that help? Does that mean I can cast things that I weren't casting before?
Exactly. Does that mean that I'm now casting spells on curve? Cool, that's a really good start. Do I pick up any other spells that I want to cast? Now becomes the question. And if the answer is no, cool, go get your lands and just run away with it, because that works as well. Yeah, we've gotten a little bit off topic there, I think, but I think this is a good place to call it here.
Yep.
So yeah, those would be our starting points for figuring out what it is you want to do in a season. Now, obviously, Christmas being Christmas, we've rather given this to you maybe a little bit late to make too much of a use of. But I think still reading articles and obviously watching the PPL and streams over the course of this weekend and playing pre-releases is going to be a really good way to get into it. So I absolutely encourage that. Okay, so as we said, there's no... There's no events.
No events upcoming.
There's no events to talk about, which is a bit weird for us. I do kind of want to just mention that again, Simeon. This is very weird.
Yes.
WotC has given us no information about this, and I'm decidedly concerned that what we're going to have is a test system that exists only in the United States, and we will end up having to wait 3 months for them to decide that it's a good idea before it goes global.
I don't believe it'll only be in the States. I do believe they have worldwide events lined up. I don't think it's going to be very many.
No.
But I would say I'd rather they got it right than did it quickly.
You have a fine point.
If we have 2 months of basically not really having any events, and then in April we're like, wow, we really, really want to play all of these things. They're giving us the price support we want, with the sort of amount of people getting to each one that we want. It's 7 rounds tops type event, but with really big prize payoff at the end. Then that's fine. If we spend 3 months and we don't get anything that's good, that's bad.
Yes.
But I can see why they'd want to not roll it out to everyone straight away, because if they have to roll it back, that's worse.
Yeah. You're not wrong.
Get it
there,
right
Simeon.
first time when they give it to us, even if it takes 3 months to get it to us. What we do in the meantime is, well, we'll find things to talk about, as we have done this week.
Yes.
And we will do in subsequent weeks. And we have Magic Online 5.0 still as an absolute minimum that we will have to talk about with decks. It's just, where are we going to play those decks is another question.
Yeah, exactly. That is the slight problem that I'm, as a Magic grinder.
I may be going to more FNMs than previously.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Like, we've still got local level store events. It's just we've not necessarily got anything high level competitive to sink our teeth into, and our outlets for that are going to be limited because there are no GPs apart from limited ones as well, obviously.
That's puts a bigger downer on it as well.
Yeah, exactly. The shake-up came at a very awkward time, given that obviously these GPs, as you say, have totally been scheduled months in advance, and they were all limited. At the same time, we were going to experience a dearth of standard events because of the change of competitive play styles. Now we're also getting a dearth of GPs as well.
You never know. Maybe we should find out when standard showdowns happen and actually go and make those the events they were meant to be.
Yes, I'm not against that plan, actually. That is something. That is definitely something where you could go and test in a relatively competitive environment with a best of 3 format, and yeah.
And in a standard showdown, if you have 32 people turn up, it's a 5-round event. 33 people turn up, it's a 5-round event.
Yeah, you're not wrong. Right, there are actually some events that I can give a quick shout out to. Now, obviously, last year we were advertising the Harlequins Preston monthly tournaments, where they had some kind of insanely good prize payouts, actually. So they're bringing them back this year. The first one, and a standard one that I kind of want to give a quick shout out to, January the 27th, so a few weeks away yet, but it's a winner box at Harlequins Preston. So if your lack of competitive Magic options are kind of killing you, do head over that way. So win a box of the new set.
Yep.
Which seems cool. The modern one, which will be going on in February, will be first place gets £100 and second place gets a booster box. So again, tournaments worth looking at.
Agreed.
Okay then, Simeon. New year, resolutions time.
Resolutions.
What do you aim to do with your year this year? And let's obviously narrow it down. Magic / content creation wise. Like, I don't mind if you're focused more on your play or more on your content creation, here with the podcast. What is it that you really want to do? Like, if you can pick one big thing, that'd be great, but I'll take a few little things as well.
I want to continue producing an episode every week. So we've done another 50 episodes at the end of the year. So as we did last year, which is fantastic. I mean, I know I only did 49, so maybe I need to try and make sure I do all 50, although I will still be going away in the summer, so there'll probably be a week where I can't get to a computer.
I'll get Watson to knock his count up to 2 lifetime.
Yeah, seems reasonable. In terms of playing, I want to keep doing what I've done, where I played through events and didn't drop at 0-2, so that over the previous 3 years, I'd had like a 35% win rate at PPTQ level when I went and looked back and did the maths. And I'm now at about a 55%, which is, 60 would probably be I'd be making consistent top 8s.
Exactly.
So I'm a smidgen off. If we still had PPTQs, it would be to make more top 8s. So it's going to be to play whatever comes up. It's a thing that we can play.
Yeah, exactly. We don't know what style of tournament we're getting, so it's a little bit hard to judge. But I also don't like the idea of basing my resolution on results, especially in Magic.
No, that's true. That's true. It shouldn't be
results.
I
want to base my resolutions on things that I can control.
It was more, the thing I controlled was staying in tournaments.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
And so I'd keep doing that and hope to just win slightly earlier in the tournament than I had been doing.
Yeah, no,
instead
absolutely.
of going 0-2.
That is what it is.
0-2 to 4-2, go 4-0, and then I can ID it. It's much better.
Exactly.
And what about you? What's your resolutions then?
So, I mean, my Magic play ones, as I say, I wanna stick within what I can control. And the thing that I want to do is, and I know obviously this is going to sound, super obvious, I want to play more Magic, but I want to play more Magic in a really concentrated manner. I noticed, especially towards the end of last year, how much my abilities fell off on day 2 of events, both the Grand Prix Brussels and Nationals. I just sort of fell apart on day 2. I think that's just because I'm so used to the PPTQs where I get to play more often than not one a weekend, and that's all I have to do. And then the next day I can spend recovering, or if it's on a Sunday I can spend Saturday, dib-dobbing, maybe do one league, and that's it.
Yeah.
Whereas what I should be doing is forcing myself into these really long endurance stretches where I'm really trying to learn how to play for a long period of time. So if you come and join me on my stream, plug, I will be probably trying to play, especially at the weekend, 6-hour stretches, and then most of the time, what I was doing when we were playing competitive events, it was I want to play 10 games a day, 10 matches a day. That was a little bit aggressive, maybe, especially considering I normally start at about 7 p.m. But I want to do something like that where I know I'm building up the capability to just go, here's a day 1, cool, you've played at your best. Day 2, you're still playing at your best because you aren't exhausted, which I think was what was going on. My brain just couldn't take any more Magic, and I failed to live up to the capabilities that I know I have. On day 1, I showed that I could be a good Magic player in both of those events. Day 2, I just didn't turn up, basically. So that's my biggest one for play. And then for content creation, it's obviously it's a little bit nebulous. Again, I want to set goals where I'm doing things, and for me personally, I think the biggest one is going to be trying to branch out. I've already started trying to make some YouTube videos. Please do head over to our YouTube; you'll see some of them. Trying to do the streaming thing. That is, they are taking very different. They take very different skill sets, even just from podcasting, and it's really interesting to try and do all of them at the same time and do them in a consistent manner and at a consistent level. I mean, because my first proper YouTube video, I look back at it, and this only been up for 2 days, and I go, I wish I'd done that. I wish I'd done that. My streams, I go, I wish I could do these things a bit more consistently and that kind of thing. But I think here at the podcast, I think here where we are right now, I think our biggest thing should just be to find a way to keep ourselves relevant in whatever system we end up being playing to get to Mythic Championships at. So whatever happens through this year, as soon as we know something, we will be trying to figure out how we can make that work for our listeners and give them the information that they need to take down the next event. We get information from the event and we go, right, for the next event, this is what you're going to need. And that is going to be a big part of the early part of this year, I think, trying to figure out how we can do that to the best of our abilities. And obviously we'd love feedback from you folks if we do something and you're like, I wasn't super keen on how you did that, how you gave us that information, that kind of thing. Please do let us know. If you have ideas, if there's, if you go, well, I wish they'd mentioned this a bit more consistently, or that kind of thing, that would be also a really good thing for us to know. But yeah, I think it's a pretty long form set of resolutions, and it's going to be pretty tricky to live up to them, but hopefully we can.
We'll do our best.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so Simeon, there's an event this weekend.
I wish.
Yeah, okay. Okay, I'll tell you what, seeing as there's very little to talk about at the moment, what guild are you playing at pre-release?
I am probably going to look at playing Gruul as my first choice of guild at present. Big Monsters, Go Smash.
Yeah. Is it a green creature? Yes. Does it turn sideways and smoosh?
Oh, no.
Yes.
No. Is it a green-red creature? Even better.
Well, yeah. My first interaction with you was still you buying the shop out of Atarka, Dragonlord Atarka.
Dragonlord Atarka was still my favourite card.
Yeah, I don't even blame you. She was great. I think I'd probably play Rakdos or Simic. I don't know which one I'm leaning more towards. I think I need to go and look at the spoiler again before making a final decision. But yeah, certainly.
You also often want to wait for quite a lot of the commons before making the decision on that sort of thing.
Yeah, kind of. But I know I need to get my my order in early.
Yeah, there is that. I've got to decide which pre-releases I'm playing first, but I haven't even got that far yet.
Yeah. So yeah, those are. I think I probably hit up Rakdos. I think Spectacle looks like a really interesting mechanic.
Yeah,
to try and make
Spectacles
work.
looks like something that I think is up your street.
Yes, because it involves a lot of, bluffing and chump attacks to try and mind game your opponent into letting you do something.
Yeah, whereas I was going, no, I am going to hit you in the face. Yes, my
You're
stuff
like,
is hitting you
my
in
thing
the
has
face.
trample. It doesn't matter if you block.
It might decide to have haste. It might decide to just be a bit bigger.
Bit bigger forever. Oh, also, I've got this thing that moves counters all over the place, so
Yeah,
Or takes off +1/+1 counters and just domes you for 2.
exactly.
I'm assuming you've seen that guy.
I have seen that guy.
I think that looks really cool.
That looks a little expensive, but there we go.
Yeah. So yeah, that's our feelings on pre-releases. If you'd like to look at any of the deck lists from the Nerd Shack in Wigan from this week, or from any of the last seasons or years' decks, please do head over to standardintelligence.uk. If you'd like to speak to either myself or Simeon, you can probably find us easiest on Twitter. Simeon, you are...
I am at SimeonBMTG.
And I am at JackPattern42. If you'd like to send us anything longer form, do hit up our Gmail. It's standardpattern@gmail.com. As I mentioned, we have a YouTube now. This will be going up on the YouTube, probably a little bit after the episode has gone live on most other podcasting media, but it will be up on YouTube. So if you would like to go and see that, then please do head over there. Just YouTube search Standard Intelligence. We don't have a cool channel name yet. We will. Soon we will.
We will.
And if you'd like to see some Arena, I'm currently platinum ranked and playing mostly on stream. I am JackPattern_MTG over on Twitch. And then obviously, as we mentioned at the top of the show, we are brought to you in part by our patrons. And if you'd like to get involved and if you'd like to be available for the next giveaway, please do head over to our Patreon, which is patreon.com/SIcast. And if you sign up before February the 5th, you'll be eligible for the February draw, which I'm assuming will be a Ravnica Allegiance card.
It will indeed be a Ravnica Allegiance card, yes.
Yeah. Might even be one of our top 10s that we'll be doing in a couple of weeks.
Yep, it will.
Yeah. Thank you all very much for listening, and we'll see you next time.
See you next time. Goodbye.